The science of stupid. Warning. Some of the actions you are about to see are foolish in the extreme. Try them at home and you'll wind up in hospital. Yes, this is the show that combines science and stupidity. Over the next half hour, you'll be witnessing the behavior of people who think they are above the laws of science. We'll explain what went wrong and why by exploring the scientific principles behind hydroplaning, momentum, Hooke's law, and pressure. Science takes no prisoners. Mess with it, and it'll mess you up. So don't try any of this at home, or anywhere else for that matter. Come on in to the science of stupid. On this show, we'll be looking at the relationship between friction and velocity, the trajectory of a projectile, and momentum. Cracking. But first, this. Feeling peckish? Fancy a quick snack? How about something a bit spicy? A chili, perhaps?
Okay, guys. Go. Here we go.
A bit too hot for you? Want to know why? Well, you've come to the right place. Science, please. Spicy food doesn't actually burn you. It just triggers a receptor in the mouth that responds to pain from physical heat. The ingredient that triggers this burning reaction is capsaicin. Oily and fatty substances like milk can help, because capsaicin can dissolve in oils. But it won't dissolve in water, so drinking that won't help. The Scoville scale is a measure of how much capsaicin a chili contains. Your average spicy curry is no more than 200 on the scale. But how do some of the world's hottest chilies measure up?
I'm not worried, because I have Mexican blood in me running through these veins. So that means I can take this.
His first mistake is thinking Mexican blood is different from other people's blood. His second mistake is trying to eat a habanero chili that's up to 300,000 on the Scoville scale. Oh dear. This isn't a meal for a first day, is it? The Trinidad scorpion chili. Well, don't snort it. Those burn receptors are in your nose too. And it registers almost 1.5 million on the Scoville scale.
So, it's saline.
Yeah, I could have told you that. In fact, I just did. And finally, the ghost chili.
It's really hot.
Also, over 1 million Scoville. It's about 100 times as potent as a jalapeno.
Ow! Ah!
Now, can you remember how we get rid of all that burning capsaicin? Is it cold, refreshing water? No. It may seem the obvious choice, but remember, capsaicin doesn't dissolve in water, so it's useless for flushing away the heat. Bread? Better. Capsaicin does dissolve in fats and oils, so the vegetable oil in bread can help. And milk? Perfect, because milk also contains fats which dissolve capsaicin, so it can soothe the burning. A bit.
Still hurt?
Yeah, it hurts.
Oh.
Yeah, you can tell.
Ah.
If that's put you off chilies, it's put me off chilies, maybe try something a little milder. How about cinnamon?
Oh, cinnamon, dude. Hey, shout out to my girl.
Did I say milder? Just kidding. Like chili, cinnamon triggers pain receptors because it contains an irritating chemical called cinnamaldehyde. Yes, it does. Cinnamon is a caustic powder which, if it gets sucked into your lungs, can damage them. It doesn't dissolve, it just sits there. But if you don't believe me...
So I have a spoon, and I want a spoon bigger than this.
I'd go with the smaller spoon, madam, but it is up to you.
All right, so here's the cinnamon, all right?
Yeah, we're fine.
All right, here goes.
It's a volcano! Oh, I should have mentioned cinnamon is even more water resistant than chili, so that won't work.
Y'all got me.
See, I told you. In fact, it doesn't even dissolve in your saliva, which is why she could do this. Spectacular.
Over and out. Over and out.
Now, drop-ins. It's all about teetering on the edge of a giant ramp on a small wooden board, obviously. Here's a drop-in as demonstrated by a 7-year-old boy. You drop down onto a ramp to pick up enough speed for tricks. Here's a kid in a wheelchair doing it. And here's a middle-aged man. OK, if life experience has taught you nothing at all, then at least pay attention to the science. It won't let you down. To maintain the pendulum motion of a drop-in, all the forces acting on the skater would need to be concentrated through his centre of gravity and the board. To do this, the body is at 90 degrees to the board. If the skater leans backwards, the imbalance of forces will rotate him, lean forwards, and this happens. And any obstruction is also likely to result in a forwards rotation by stopping the board, but not the rider. Staring down a near-vertical ramp is a little daunting, so it's understandable if you want to lean back a bit, but please don't. And here's why. Remember, 90 degrees to the board. By leaning back, she's moved her centre of gravity way out of line, pushing her off balance. Chin up, love. Now you know how it works. Ah, he looks like he knows what he's doing. Oh, it's a good start, but at this point, he's too far forward. Remember, 90 degrees is where you want to be, as opposed to hospital.
Broken collarbone!
It's always good to have a friend on hand with some sound medical advice.
Broken collarbone!
And support. Having perfected the technique, you need a good quality ramp like this. But if you don't have one, make sure your substitute allows you to keep that critical 90-degree angle, which this child's slide does not.
I was gonna say that's the last try, but I'm trying it again.
Well, double check it by all means, but... yeah, I'd call it a day now. How about a brick handrail? No? A concrete wall then? Yeah, different ramps, same result. Any imperfections, like, say, a large bump, an acute angle, or the gap between some bricks, then whilst your board may come to a stop, you won't. No, and the excruciating pain in your shoulder is proof enough. A good ramp, that 90-degree angle, and it's as easy as falling off a log. Or a school bus. Now, what scientific principle is this fellow about to demonstrate? Have a guess. So, did you guess the scientific principle we're about to see? Is it the relationship between acceleration and mass? Nope, it's tensile strength and impact. Plummeting to the ground from height at great speed is generally a bad idea, but that hasn't stopped some people making it a pastime. Zip wires are a wonderful way to get some fresh air and to take in the view, although quite terrifying if you're afraid of heights. Yep, zip wires. Loads of fun and usually quite safe. But before you rush off to put one up in the garden, you need to know some basic rules of geometry. The trajectory of a zip wire journey is called a catenary, which is caused by the weight of the cable and the rider. The final stretch of the catenary is angled upwards to slow the rider and create a perfectly timed stop. All zip wires need a slight downward angle. Around 4 degrees is the optimum angle to get enough velocity. So, you don't want too much weight dangling from the wire, and you don't want too steep a descent. Otherwise, you'll be heading for trouble. Fast. I'm no mathematician, but that doesn't look like 4 degrees. Anyone got a protractor? Increase that 4-degree angle by just 1 degree, and you could be going up to 25% faster. Well, that's definitely not 4 degrees. Closer to 90. Oh yeah, and don't use rope. It's a bit stretchy. Once you've got the angle, test the height using a weight. Just make sure that weight isn't a child. This is what friends and family are for, to laugh at you when you're down. And don't forget, the heavier the rider, the greater the momentum and the harder it is to stop. Although a tree will always do the job. Funny things, swings. I don't know what it is about being swung back and forth on a plastic seat, but people love them, especially the little ones. But providing you're not a big lad on a tiny swing, getting on usually isn't the problem. It's getting off. Cue the science. The motion of a swing is created by gravity pulling you downwards and the tension in the chains moving you in an arc like a pendulum. If you jump off during a swing, you need to find the correct balance between launch angle and velocity. The higher you are when you jump, the steeper your trajectory will be. Energy from the downward swing is converted into velocity, so the lower your jump, the faster you travel. There are around 150,000 swing accidents a year in the US. So don't be a statistic, nail your speed and try to let go at the right time. Starting simply, the forward dismount. Not that simple. All that velocity and a small lean forward becomes a major faceplant. You see? Now, if you think getting off forwards is tricky, it's nothing compared to backwards. Let go on the backward swing, and your trajectory will be dictated by gravity. Respect your elders, they say. I don't. At least not these elders. He got off too late. A steep trajectory meant he had no chance of clearing the table. Leaping off at the lowest point would have meant more velocity, but not enough height. Had he leapt at just below 45 degrees, he'd have achieved the perfect trajectory. But he didn't.
Just run it off. Just run it off.
Oh, and a medical footnote, running it off works if you've got a stitch, not if you actually require stitches. If you want to show off, you'll need loads of velocity. Nearly, but not quite. Check out these Russian swingers. They use solid metal poles instead of chains, and with good reason. The The swing's arc depends on the tension in the chains. If the swing rises too high, the chains lose tension and the seat drops. With solid poles, that doesn't happen. Meaning these fellas can even nail a 360 and be reaching speeds of over 20 miles an hour. Just watch him go! Skiing not dangerous enough for you? Try snowboarding, because statistically you're at least 4 times as likely to damage your spine. And the surest way to really stuff yourself up is to try a jump. So, remember the following points. Snowboards work best on snow. Watch out for hidden obstructions and obvious ones. And look out for other people on the slopes. Well, that was a close one. That was even closer. Now, if you want to land on your board, and not your face, then you need to master the takeoff. It's all about speed and popping. When slaloming, a snowboarder angles the uphill edge of their board into the snow to avoid toppling over. But this increases friction on the one side and so decreases speed. For maximum speed going into a jump, you can reduce friction by spreading your body weight evenly and keeping the board pointed directly forward. Next is a technique called popping. As you hit the lip of the ramp, push down with your legs and jump up with both feet at the same time. This generates more height by using your muscles like a spring. So first things first, get your speed up. Because not everything you land on is as forgiving as snow. Zigzagging creates friction, which slows you down, as does hitting a wall. You've got the speed, now for a pop, but you have to really go for it. Well, something's popped. I suspect it's his shoulder. Finally, if you want to try a few tricks, lean forward to let your angular momentum give you some spin. But you can overdo it. And underdo it. He seems remarkably calm.
I don't know, I mean, I got health insurance.
Ah, fine, we'll be off then. Love a stunning view? Not afraid of hurtling to a messy death? Well, rock climbing's the sport for you. But to be safe, first get the right equipment and training. Oh, and follow the rules. 1. Choose a suitable climbing surface. 2. Bring appropriate safety gear. And try to land on it. 3. Get a grip. It's all about gravity and friction. Gravity is trying to pull you down. Friction is what you need to prevent it. And here's how. To create sufficient friction, you need to apply as much force as possible to the climbing surface. The harder you press, the more friction you get. On most climbing surfaces, you can use your feet and hands to hook on to any features in order to apply enough force to counteract gravity. But on a rock face with fewer features, you need to keep as close to the surface as possible, taking strain off the hands and pushing down on the feet, increasing friction. Or you might fall. But if all your climbs were full of handy holes, life would be just too easy. So what if your surface has almost no holes at all? It's every sane climber's nightmare, a near featureless surface. So staying close to the rock face is key to creating maximum friction.
Oh my God.
You said it. To create enough friction on a vertical crack, you need to apply horizontal force by pulling on the crack with your arms and pushing on it with your legs. Even when you're really good at this, things can suddenly go very wrong. Remember, maximum force equals maximum friction. So you need to push as hard as possible with your feet. Once his legs stop pushing horizontally, he loses vital friction and falls at up to 30 miles an hour. If two featureless walls are facing each other, you can climb up by chimneying.
So how are you going to get down?
Good question.
Damien!
Hitting the deck with over 1,000 pounds of force, the fact Damien survived is more miracle than science. So don't even think of trying this. The harder you push, the more friction you get. But your body weight is working entirely against you here. And what happens when you get to the top? The splits approach, but by swinging one of his legs away from the wall, he loses too much force from the other. Remember, low force equals low friction.
Damien!
Better to crack the science than your heels, unlike Damien, who fractured both of his. There you go. Proof, if proof were needed, that the world's a dangerous place, full of speed-obsessed adolescents, pyromaniacs, and worst of all, cinnamon. So, be safe. Don't try any of this stuff yourself. Just watch other people doing it on The Science of Stupid.